Welcome to this week's podcast on thethinkers.com.
We haven't done one of these in a while. But where were we? Because we were talking outside about systems and processes and how those things are the things that create.
So it was touching on that book, Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And essentially, one of the key principles was in order to achieve success, it's not actually hitting the goals that you set, it's actually building systems.
Mm.
So it's like, for example, people set goals, as their New Year's resolutions on,
Yeah.
usually weight loss is number
One,
one
yeah.
on the list. But they set a goal and not a process.
Mm.
So like they never end up achieving it because they don't actually set systems in place that allows them to actually achieve it. So if you can apply that principle into your life, let's say from a financial perspective over like a long period of time,
Yeah.
it can be a hell of a lot more effective than this whole like, shoot from the hip, kind of get rich quick principle that everyone is sort of on,
Mm.
as opposed to like building a long-term system. And I mean, you and I touched on this a while back. It's like we sort of had this back and forth where it was like, no one really said to us like build wealth over time slowly kind
Yeah.
of thing. And we had a back and forth because it was like to some degree they had, but it was presented in such a way that
It seemed instantaneous.
no, not even. It's like it seemed like it was doing what everyone else was doing. But in reality, it's like they were teaching us the principles that no one was actually following, or very few were actually following.
Yeah.
It's like if you look at like the basic principles of successful investors, it's like it's stupidly simple. It's like just given like enough time, buy good companies at good prices, like a Warren Buffett as an
Yeah.
example. It's like there's no real genius behind it.
I mean, it is for me. It's been interesting to see. I agree with that sentiment completely. Like, it's been interesting to see how the processes in my life have brought sort of mediocre-ish results, and I think it goes back to that analogy of like you haven't consistently been listening to the best version of yourself. So parts of you know, like I don't need to go to gym today, or whatever the case may be, and it's like if you listen to that voice that knows better every single day, then there should be positive outcomes. And I think all I'm trying to do now is, I mean, there are certain processes, there are certain steps, but I mean, something. It's just doing the basics, man.
Yeah.
It's the thing is that people just don't want to do the basics.
Yeah, it's that ability to listen to the that voice that you know what the right thing is to do. It's like it's funny, and we've spoken about this. It's like there's a separation in your consciousness where it's like there's a you that you get to speak to, kind of thing.
Mm.
There's like it's like I said to myself. It's like how do you do that? There's almost like this split in your consciousness that exists where it's like there's a voice of reason and then there's a voice of like let's say that is reactive to the world. And it's like there's a discipline that comes with trying to listen to the former as opposed to
Yeah,
the
so,
latter.
and also some people's internal voices are not well educated.
Yeah, I mean it's like building that intuition. It's like there's a sense of intuition that is required in order to actually trust that voice as well.
But some people, I hear what you mean, but there's actually like, funnily enough, when you bring in intuition, you bring in like a metaphysical component, because there are some people that intuitively know things better than others, or they know what like they have a gut feel.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's still that internal dialogue. Do you know what I mean?
there is, but I think like gut feel for me is a hell of a lot more biological in a sense than intuition. Like then not intuition, than being logical or trying to think of things through. Like there's some things that decision just took you by the balls. Like
yeah.
it just took all of you to say like we're gonna say no. It's like, and people know, like you can ask them in hindsight, like why did you make this decision? And he's like, I don't know. It just felt
Yeah.
like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's like to a degree how your brain works. Like how conscientious are you to the point like how much internal dialogue do you need in order to make a decision, kind of thing. Some people can just be like reactive instantaneously, whereas some people need more time to think things through, kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's still listening to the gut, or that
I think they're different.
that intuition.
I genuinely think they're different. I think like there is an inner voice that most people have that kind of is like their day-to-day companion, and then there's something that's just complete. Like there's been times where people act against their own interests, and they're like, "Why did you do that?" And they're like, "I don't know." Everything in like, I knew what I needed to do, but everything my body told me not to.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Wow, that's a completely different argument."
Oh, I guess like I'm just saying the tool that is used to transport the message is different, maybe. So one is a feeling that is translated to words, that is translated into action, or one is just like it goes from feeling to action. So, and some people have the ability to go from feelings to action, and some people require to go from feelings to words to action, kind of thing. Or do you think that it's
no? I
it
think
dilutes
I
it?
think no. I think there's actually
Two types.
yes. I think you've actually articulated both of the types, and they're applicable to everyone.
So you think there's an internal dialogue that is disconnected from your intuition, and then there's one that is connected to your intuition.
Yes.
But do you think that the one that's connected to your intuition doesn't demonstrate itself in words?
Yes. It demonstrates itself in feeling.
Okay,
It's like
interesting.
it's much more macro. It's
Interesting. That actually makes a lot of sense. So like, I had quite an interesting experience with the lady that does the physio.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
she's highly intuitive. Like, and I was having a conversation with her about it, and she was telling me about a thing that she did called a structured intuition. So
Yeah.
it's like a course actually that she did on it, and it's like getting in touch with yourself,
Yeah.
and getting in touch with like people around you, kind of thing. And it's funny because just the way that my brain naturally works, it's like it sort of instantly went to like an image of being able to analyze people, having the ability to analyze situations and people in sort of a intellectual way, right? But like the more she described it, and more, it's like it's actually being able to translate feeling.
yes.
So to your point, it's like it's being able to feel and sense a vibration, if you want to call it that, and then be able to translate that into an understanding, kind of thing.
No, they all I definitely think they're all components that are much more deeper than what we can rationalize. And so
Absolutely. Yeah.
the point I was trying to make is that I think the point I was trying to make that's kicked us off is that I think that there are people who do not have their rational version, like brain is not as rational as others, or is not as educated as others. And that's the point. That's the piece about understanding the world better, and I guess arming yourself with knowledge. But the long term of it is just, I mean, like, how do you actually go about your day to be so that it's in line with your macro objectives? And once you start doing that, you almost start realizing your day is almost just I guess it's like I wouldn't say, you're kind of just going with the flow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big mistake that we can make, is like we think that time can equal progress, but it doesn't. It's like action does. So it's like you think that it's almost like you set a goal for the end of the year, and it's almost like your brain thinks because we're nearing the end of the year, the goal is coming. Instead of like,
that's a combination of both. It's
Yeah.
like time and action.
yeah, exactly. It's like, and that's the thing. It's like you think that, okay, in 5 years I will be rich, but it's like, but that's actually not a good. It's not actually a good, like, it's great unit of measurement, but it isn't an action, kind of thing. And that's the mistake people make, is like, and that's the principle we started with, is like setting systems in order of like bite-sized things you can do, and it's like create a system that is productive towards that.
And I think so. Here's the thing about like what we've been saying about not liking what your previous systems have
Made you to be.
Yeah, made you to be, is that I've always had this thinking of like, I don't like sticking to structure because it seems hella boring to know what the end result is going to be, right?
Yeah.
But I've almost like resigned myself to the fact that like it's so shit in a sense that I would rather subject myself to some kind of metric than not, because there is a pleasantness to sort of going with the flow.
Yeah.
Like you can be pleasantly surprised and
Mm.
also negatively surprised.
Mm.
And so for me it's now more about like actually cut all the bullshit.
Need a bit more predictable outcome.
Yeah.
Sure, man, and I think like that's the process that we've been going through from like, and I was exactly the same. It's like we never wanted to compete in that environment, kind of thing. It's like we wanted to create our own environment,
Yeah.
and that's sort of what we've been doing for the last while. Is like understanding that we need to create our own systems that work for us, and I think that that's like, kind of the principle that Peter Thiel talks about with like in 0 to 1. It's like create monopolies. It's like because you build an entirely new system that isn't competitive. It's not competitive by its nature on the onset. And I mean, me and you did that. It's like I didn't want to study because I didn't want to compete in that world, and I wanted to follow a different path. And like as time goes, you realize the utility of that. But it's like I think the way that you need to practically actually do something is like build your own system.
I think the only fallacy about building your own systems and going to the point you were making is that
You don't know if it'll work.
one, but I think it's almost naive. It's almost like you're almost like there's an element of
Yes.
disillusion that you
Yes.
can be susceptible to, right? So
Well, yeah, your system has to be able to plug into the world. Like it can't be completely separate from the world.
yeah, and that's why I think most people don't want to, like when you're young and ambitious and don't like want to listen to authority,
Mm.
you will tend to build your own system, and even if it doesn't work, it's like, well, it's my own system and I don't have to abide by your rules. When I do think that like if you play in the system long enough and you actually like I find there to be such a nuanced coincidence with like the people that are in Silicon Valley that have started these big tech companies dropping out of like really prestigious schools.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not because they were dumb, it's like they were probably some of the smartest people and they could see beyond what the system was actually producing, as
Yes.
opposed to being someone that sort of disillusionedly sits back and says, I can do something better because, and then points to reference points that they have no connection to. I think you've got, and it's Mark Cuban said this like a while back. Like he was like, I worked for someone for a couple of, I think it was like a year or two, and then he was like, I hated it, but they taught me, like I learned from that place how to start a business, what it should look like. So I think there's an element of understanding the utility of the way that the historical system has been developed.
And extrapolating something from that's your own.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can't be completely new.
Mm.
I mean, even if you look at like, if you look at cryptocurrency, for instance, and all that stuff, like it's an entirely new universe that is open. But all they've essentially done is taken conventional financial instruments and financial products and just put it into a different format. And it's like it's kind of the same thing it doesn't do anything new, kind of thing, and it's often worse than the original thing. But it's like, so to your point, it's like extract some, like be able to learn from that system, and then because it's like there's no point in starting from scratch again, because there's hundreds of years behind the systems that exist, and there's a reason why they exist and continue to exist is because it works. So
yeah,
it's
and
like,
that's the underlying. I mean, when I was telling you about that, I think it was probably early last year, about that underlying pattern that you see when you read old text.
yeah,
There's an underlying pattern that if you can pick up on, your idea won't actually be new. It's kind of just an evolution of that pattern. And those are the things that sort of naturally grow. Well, so I think the difficulty is that people don't. The difficulty is that people underestimate the difficulty in doing that. One, because there is a concept that doing doing something great, it can't be easy.
Yeah, but
By
yeah.
by the scarcity of it, it has to be difficult.
Yeah.
Or at least unique in some aspect. And so you got to take a value structure, that reinforces that. Like if you're going to do something difficult, your value structure has to be difficult. It has to be something that other people can look at and be like, yes, that's heavy. Like that's why I reference.
Or
I-
creative. I mean,
But I think the problem with creativity is that you can overestimate
how
how creative
creative
you are. Yeah.
No, for sure. But I'm not saying that would be my solution. I'm just saying
Like generally, yeah.
yeah. Like that's an alternative to difficulty, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
and
something.
there are rare few people in the world that have.
It's incredibly rare. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. And I think that's like another thing that women look at. I'm talking about this earlier about like what women look at as like sort of precursors, and I think that's probably a big one. It's like that's why there's a reason like they fall in love with musicians like so easily. It's because it's like it's a precursor of creativity.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and like there's something that musicians possess, which is also maybe like they don't adhere to the system kind of thing. So it's like there's something about. Well, I mean, I'd say I'm having a counter argument in my head right now. But like, it's not. It doesn't represent security, but there's an attraction to it. Maybe not as a suitable mate.
No, I think it is a suit because they're realizing. So back to the conversation we were having, they're real.
But they can build their own systems.
Yes.
Okay.
That's one of the things women value a lot is creativity because it's like this guy can make something out of nothing.
Yes.
And that's literally like what leaders do. It's like, you leaders of men do. It's like I'm bringing home the bacon.
Yeah.
And when you're creative, that's the thing that, and it's such like I can understand why it must be incredibly difficult for a woman to pick someone because it's you've got to have a really big temperament to understand people because you can be disillusioned by a lot of things.
I mean, like doing the math for a man is quite easy. It's like you're attractive and like you possess all of the like traits that would be attractive, and like men don't necessarily have to look at a woman over a period of time. It's like we can almost look at them in isolation right now and say this is suitable right now.
Yeah.
Whereas like they have to look at you and all of the various like versions of you going forward over like quite a long period of time. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a difficult but I think the older value for men gets a lot more easier to validate the older you get because you're no longer the entity that is, what's the word I'm looking for here? You're no longer the entity that has promise, but you fulfilled it. Like when you, by the time you're 35, you should have a decent amount of money. You should have a couple of assets. So the girl you're gonna pick out is gonna be a belter, right?
Sure.
She has to be because you're at the top of the Gestapo now.
Yeah.
But when you were 25, she has to try to synthesize what
35-year-old you looks like.
Yes, what your characteristics are going to evolve into.
Yes, so it's quite a risk, yeah.
It is, yes, a massive risk, man. And like when you're 25, you don't know dick.
No. Yeah.
Like it's I mean, if you think about
so a woman would probably choose older men. It's like probably one of the reasons why, because they're
consistent. They know who they are.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's like the men can select from more established older men, that have sort of proven their competence and ability and.
Do you think you know who you are?
To a degree, but I mean, it only like that's the point where that's like one of the things we discussed earlier. It's like actually living that version out will teach you more about that version. So it's like that whole shame thing. Like there's a disconnect between who you are and who you present yourself out to the world. And so like, and the price you pay for that is that you don't manifest who you are in the world. And so the results are not going to be of who you actually are. The results are going to be of this facade that you place, which I think has got consequences beyond what we like can even conceptualize. So I think it's like you have an idea of what it's like being you in the world. And I think it's like a part of why you don't do it is because you don't know how the world responds to that person.
Yeah, it's never been your reality.
never done it.
Yeah, your reality's never been framed as that person,
Yes.
and it's because like it's a problem.
It's a feedback loop. Like you're worried about the feedback loop. as well.
You're worried about the feedback loop, but it's abandoning a fundamental part of yourself that you've held on since you were very young.
Yeah. And you've presented to the world. So it's
Yeah,
like
and
everyone knows you as that
But it works. You know what I mean? Like
to a degree, but it's not getting the results you want.
yeah, there's a consequence to that, right? Like you can think about having like that characteristic may have built up and has been validated, and it has made you avoid other hells that you don't know of.
You pay a price either way. And I think that you pay a higher price on not being who you are.
I think there's I understand that. I understand that 100%. But I also think you can't just dissuade or just dismiss.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's like let's say you have like some proclivity to be an alcoholic, and you decide I'm just going to be who I am, and then you end up drinking yourself into the oblivion. But it's like the facade that you put on stops you from doing that kind of thing. So there's that aspect to it. But I think it's like if you feel that disconnect, which we're currently experiencing, like if you feel that the world will be, that your world at least will be better in some way because you are being yourself, then I think you have to do it.
I think that the only takeaway is that you have to do it because you can, by virtue of analyzing the past, you can conceptualize that you have not been the best version of yourself.
Yes. And you can only actually make that decision now.
Yeah.
That's also part of the development of it. It's like part of the development of that character is not being that character.
Yes, exactly.
Because then you get to understand who that character is.
Yes.
Because you see the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and it's an interesting point. It's like you've almost got to be thankful for not having it.
For not being it.
Yes.
Yeah. Fuck, yeah, that's pretty good.
So, I mean, it's almost like you have a much richer database than other people would have had they done it younger. Because you've been doing it for so long that you kind of like, crap.
They almost don't understand who they are because they've been themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's almost. I know what you mean. It's almost like they could never recreate it again.
Yes,
because it was so natural.
Yeah, it's like we've analyzed it to a degree that you know exactly what parts of you are not you.
And maybe you wanted it that way. Maybe you wanted to be able to manufacture it the way that you wanted to manufacture it.
Absolutely.
And to know that.
Yeah, I think that's been a lot of the way that we've manifested ourselves in the world as well. It's like we kind of never wanted to get things easy.
Oh yeah, to make it seem like it was off on a whim, right?
Yeah, it's like how satisfied would you feel if you created a company tomorrow that started doing well, and it's like over the next 5 years you built this thing up, and it's like you got 100 customers in year one, and then it's like went to 1,000, then 10,000, then 100,000. Now you're a global company, and it's like you've smashed it, and now you have $200 million.
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to winning the lottery of $200 million in 5 years. It's like there's a whole different level of, it's like, it's almost if you won the lottery, it's like it takes away from the money.
I hear what you mean.
It's like you would almost be embarrassed to be rich from winning a lottery. That's why I said almost. Keyword is almost. I almost give a fuck.
But I'm like, nah, I'm just going strippers and cocaine.
I can't see through this money.
No, that checks out. That I think I've like part of me has always wanted to be validated as like very lucky. Like,
yes,
I want to be validated as like smart, but also like some of the people like
the opportunities just came to him.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like, oh man, he's got a knack for it type
Yeah.
guy.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like you don't want to be the gritty guy.
yes,
got his hands dirty and-
yes, you never want to be
No.
that. You want to be that guy that came up with like
And
an app.
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
he did, like he
And it
developed
just
an
boomed,
app,
yeah.
and it was like he made like in a month he
Yeah.
had like, oh, it's like
right
wow,
place, right time.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a validation of like,
Of intellect,
but
yeah. of competence, but it's like, yeah.
yeah, but,
You didn't-
but also the
didn't
grace.
have to like sweep the floors, kind of
Yeah, bro.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just being like, hey man, the grace. I'm actually just going on the grace. But I get that. You are right. I think we have developed it in such a way that you kind of want to be able to replicate it.
Yeah. We always wanted to understand that, and that's why we've like a part of why we've been having these sessions for such a long time. It's like we've been analyzing ourselves in relation to the world constantly on almost a weekly basis.
You
And it's like
realize
it's not a
that-
straight line at all, man.
Yeah, you realize there's a depth to your decision making that you've continuously said was continuously flawed,
Mm.
and you just had to realize that. Like
Yeah,
for the,
Takes
like,
time, yeah.
but there's a point where you gotta realize it for the final time.
Yeah. There's like a like a switch that needs to be flipped, kind of thing. Otherwise, you'll
just
y-
keep
you're
replaying
playing
that
with it.
pattern. Yeah,
Yeah.
you keep playing with that pattern.
Yeah. And sometimes people get comfortable with playing that pattern. It's like something we spoke about the other day. It's like being satisfied with living in the fantasy
Of
as
being-
opposed to
Mm.
like the reality of actually achieving it.
yeah, because there's a weight there.
There's a weight, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, like one of the things, like I genuinely believe it for me. It's just coming from a place of like just fucking get it over and done with. Like I remember when I didn't get my tour card when I went to qualifying school, and then and I just came back home bawling my eyes out, and I was like, "Bud, you gotta fucking go out there and get a job."
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I'm having now. It's just like I don't know what it is, but you gotta roll up your sleeves.
You got to do something else.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It's because this is not working.
Yeah, man. Like I would say, in a similar realization of mine, it's like you can't expect the outcomes that you want if you're not being you. And that's like the biggest thing for me that I've realized. It's like it's such a huge thing. It's like you will not manifest in the world the results. It's like you want you want to see what are the consequences of being you. And it's like, what does that relate to? And it's like, you actually have no idea because you've never been yourself.
You've never been yourself long enough.
Fully. Yeah.
You've seen yourself in pieces.
Yes, yeah. In moments. But you don't
Yes,
actually, you don't present that self to the world.
Yeah, it is a thing of like pieces.
Yeah, you must present it to people. So it's like you manifest, it's like you get to experience yourself through people who are close to you almost. And it's like, and you get to be your true self. That's like what we spoke about, like level of agreeableness kind of thing. It's like,
yeah.
you're almost less agreeable with the people that you love most, and the people that you're most close to, you're more of a hard ass than fucking a stranger on the street. And it's like, it's because the facade that you put up is not you, and so like you get to experience the real you, but only in small doses around certain people.
It plays out differently, but I do think like the long term of it is you have to be.
Unapologetically you.
I would phrase it differently. I would say that you need to be the best that you can be. You need to possess. You need to pose. You need to pose to the universe or the world or your reality the version you are most proud of, and to be accountable to that person every time.
Yeah, the best that you can be right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sustain that. And even when it's difficult to do so, you've gotta take that path and carry the weight. And I think if you do it long enough and you again put it in processes, I think the long term of it is that it'll be so innate to who you are that you kind of just roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you because you always are paying a price.
In some way, yeah.
Yeah, and some
But-
you're always paying a price.
Yeah.
And I think you need to get to a place where you're just sick and fucking tired of paying.
Pay the price of being genuinely you.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like, even if people don't like you, it's like, but this is you. That's why I kind of chose the word unapologetically. It's
you
like,
you like being liked though.
of course you do, but it's like people will like you, even if you're a hard ass. It's like, we know people who like, it's like you get people where it's like you either love them or you hate them.
Would you be a hard ass if you had $1 billion?
I'd be different, yeah. And that's the realization that I've had. And that's what I don't
Oh.
like. And that's why it's like I can't get that being this version because there's a difference.
Oh, okay. You're having a different crisis than I'm having.
So okay, so let's expand on that.
Mine is more about like I just don't do the things I should do. Like if I'm gonna give me $1 billion, I wouldn't need to be more hard-assed. I'd be much more of a rascal.
But you'd be more of yourself. You'd be more you.
Yeah, I'd be I wouldn't be.
I think it's more of a trait, right? So it's like a character trait that you repress or suppress is rascality.
Yes.
Whereas mine is agreeableness.
Okay.
So I don't think the crisis is the same. I mean, I don't think the crisis is different. I just think it's the trait that is different. It's like maybe because of the circumstances that I'm in, it's like I am on a daily basis exposed to situations where I want to say something but I don't.
Mm.
And it's like because I'm too agreeable. So whereas yours is different. It's like you want to do things that you don't because of you're just too there's a sort of a subconscious thing that you like. You don't want to do it because of X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
So I'd say it's a similar principle. It's like, but you can be a rascal now without the money, and I can be less agreeable without the money, and it's almost like it's necessary.
But is that so? You see, for me, rascality and doing all that I can and being the best that I can be are two different things. Because a characteristic trait that I carry throughout my day is segmented from what I need to do. Like you know what you need to do on a day to day,
Yeah.
and you need to knock that out day to day.
Mm.
I don't do it all the time. But whereas a characteristic trait that I take throughout the day is completely different. It's not necessary to that point.
Sure, but I mean, it's like integrating rascality into your day. So it's like if you had $1 billion, it's like you would not need to do the things you don't want to do, kind of thing. So like you would do, but you wouldn't just be fucking partying the whole time, being a rascal. You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
There would still be processes and systems and stuff that you would follow, but you would do those things differently. So it's like, how do you take the systems and processes that you need to follow now and apply that genuineness to them?
Yeah, but I mean, like using that analogy, there's certain characteristic traits that you can't
mix.
you can't take on prior to an event taking place.
Like,
What would be the utility of someone being kind to a masochist, assuming that they will be kind back to them at some later stage because they've changed that characteristic trait?
okay, just say that again. I'm not understanding.
So, what would be the utility of being kind
Yeah.
to a masochist?
Yeah.
No, not to a masochist, to a sadist,
Okay.
right? In the assumption that they will treat you differently because you're being kind. And in your mindset, you are thinking that by me being kind, they will stop whatever,
Yeah.
they will stop the characteristic that they're exhibiting.
I would say there's no utility.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying be genuine. So I'm like,
No, but I'm saying there is utility in adjusting who you are at certain
point
times.
is, yeah, absolutely. But like, so maybe what we're missing each other is like the point I'm trying to make is like, be yourself all the time. So it's like you used rascality as as an example. It's like so like it's like being genuine is like being a rascal when it's appropriate to be a rascal and you want to be a rascal.
Okay.
It's like, so not suppressing that. It's like, and in my point, it's like saying no, this is over the line when it is,
Okay. Okay. I see what you mean.
kind of thing. So it's
I
like
see what you mean.
it's almost like being honest and genuine
With yourself, yeah.
with yourself and with the world around you. And it's like, and then the world starts reacting to that
Appropriately.
person,
Okay.
and then your results are different.
Okay. That makes that makes a lot more sense. Makes a hell of a lot more sense. I don't think that's a difficult thing. I think it's just
No, I don't think it is. It's like, it's part of the problem is like we overanalyze how we should react in situations.
yeah, because you're trying to appease all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
It's the thing about being a mediator. I mean, I'm not a firstborn, but like a middle child, typically comes with trying to always mediate
Mm.
things in the family. Your parents went through a divorce. You feel a need to look at things from both sides.
Yeah.
It's it's the nature of always playing peacemaker.
Mm.
And it's like, well, what happens if you don't?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like the more I've thought about this, is like,
Someone else will do it.
no, it's like, even though you might say things that aren't pleasant, it's like it can always be good because it's the truth, kind of thing.
And you always stand behind the truth.
Yeah.
And you'll always be able to protect the truth.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's a way that people kind of respect that to a degree. It's like, and especially if you put it that way, it's like, listen, like, a fundamental principle of mine is that I need to tell the truth, and at this moment, I believe that what you're saying is a lie. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm telling you now that I don't believe what you're saying. So we need to address that. And then it's like, it changes the entire situation, as opposed to like all of a sudden, it's like you just nod your head and smile, yeah, and then afterwards you're like, oh, that person's a fucking bullshitter.
Mm.
And then you never trust them and you never do business with them. But it's like actually addressing that thing there. It's like, okay, they say, all right, you know what, that was a little bit of a this, and this is actually the truth. And then it's like, cool, now we can be candid and honest with each other. And I think that at the end of the day, it's like, even though it might be difficult, it is always a net positive.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
hear that.
so like I was listening to Jack Welch, right? And like he like one of his principles was like candor. And it's like just an absolute, like, unapologetically being candid and straightforward with everyone. And he's like, the worst thing that he's seen in companies that they go into and buy and whatever, it's like when they need to cut costs or it's bad and they need to let people go, it's like they're letting someone go, and it's like, and they're asking, why me? Why am I being let go? And it's like, because you're the worst person here. You're the least productive. You are the worst person that we have. We have to let you go. And they're like, but I've been here for 31 years and no one's ever told me this.
Okay.
And it's like, you never paid that person
The respect.
the respect that they needed to say, hey, like, up your game or be better or whatever it is. And it's like, it's a difficult conversation, but it's like telling everyone's great all the time and then tomorrow you're going to fire them. It's like, it's not doing anyone a favor.
Yeah, that is correct. I guess it's like the stories that they told us when we were kids, right? Like the knights stand for truth.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. And like knights fight. Like there's times where like saying it's the truth isn't good enough. There's times where you actually have to defend it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so long as you know that you're standing on the side that you're happy to defend, then by all means, because it's almost like you not doing that, you're almost on the other side by like the omission of not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like if you see someone get raped, you're kind of condoning it.
Yeah. It's like think about all of the like these archetypal hero stories. It's like if you want to be the hero, you have to be the one that fights the dragon. You have to be the one that does the hard thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if you look at your character in these stories and this agreeable, soft
Yeah,
person
you're
that's not.
the-
You're not
you
actually
cower.
the hero. You're the
yeah.
other. You're person number 4 in the back.
yeah.
You're like dude with sign. You're just random cleaner in the back of the
That's
movie.
exactly-
You know what I
yeah,
mean? But you want to be the.
You
wanna
want
be the
You want to
lead.
get the goal. It's
Yeah.
like you're not gonna do that.
It's like no,
You've
you're
gotta-
nodding in the background
Yeah, it's
while
just
everyone
in there.
abuses you.
yeah. It's like you. Yeah, I love that. Person number 3.
Yeah.
That's on the credits. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Person
When
number
it
3.
comes up, it's like you're at the bottom. It's like,
Key grip. It's like that's
Yeah.
you. And but I like 100%. I guess it's also another thing. Like you gotta be a person that fights, and like not fights in the physical sense, but like
stands their ground.
yeah.
But I mean, that's also the part of being genuine. Also, it's like if that's not your genuine thing, then don't do it. But it's like if you genuinely
But you want to be the hero.
want to do it,
It's
then
not-
do it.
It's not that you want to do it. It's that you want to be the hero.
I don't think there's a disconnect between being genuine and being the hero.
No, there is.
It's
Sometimes people don't want to take your role because they're like, yes, that looks hard. I'd rather be person number 3.
Yeah, but that's them being
Yeah,
genuine.
that's them. That's their movie. Their movie is I am person number 3.
But in their little movie, no, they're number 3 in your movie.
No,
but
they're number 3 in their even in their movie. They're like, I want someone else to play the lead in my movie.
But I guess like the thing is like there aren't traits that are universal that you universally have to adopt, like fighting, for instance.
You need to universally adopt some type of conflict resolution.
You'd be able to, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like your method can be your own. That's what I'm saying. It's like don't put yourself in situations now that you're fighting for the purpose of fighting as opposed to
Oh no, I hear what you mean. But
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of like I would say because you can see when you talk to someone and just you speaking to them lights up their day. You can already see that, oh, I'm a hero in your movie.
okay, yeah.
And there's that, so there are people that just don't want to be heroes at all.
Sure.
And it's like you actually want to be a hero, but you're just like
So you have to be willing to do the hero things, like fight the dragon, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And you kind of
But what if that's not you? That's the point I'm trying to make.
well then you can't complain about not being the hero.
Yeah,
And that's the problem.
sure.
That's what we're doing. We're actually fucking complaining about not being the hero.
Yeah, but
and
we're
it's
not
like,
enacting the hero role or person.
we're actually
or-
like, nah, I just want to be a nice guy. Everyone should
Yeah.
like me. So that guy doesn't fuck, bro.
yeah, yeah.
That guy does not fuck. So yeah, we're gonna go a different direction. The casting director's like, we're going in a different direction.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know I guess it isn't me, but I guess it's like I get I can see the nobility behind doing that. Like even when you were framing it, like you can sit in a room and be like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
I can get
That was
behind
brave.
that guy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
fuck. That's courage. Like you look at them like that's courageous. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. And like I'm finding like the more I sort of abstract that or live it out-
Articulate it.
live it out in my head kind of
Yeah.
thing, it's like
It's
the
become
more honest you are, the better. And it's like when you tell people why you are saying it, like I even used the example of saying like, my principle is that I need to tell the truth. And the moment you say something like that, it's like people respect it.
Yeah, because it's noble.
Yeah,
It is.
there's a nobility in
yeah.
being.
No,
in
that's what I'm
being
saying.
straight.
Like, there's a nobility to being a person that stands up for truth.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, yeah, man. That's part of the reason why I wrote that poem and actually wrote it out. Because you want to, because even now when you're speaking about it, you kind of come alive when you talk about, you kind of talk, when you're talking about it, you come alive. Like because it's now, it's tangible. It's like, okay, I can have an semblance of what this practically how I should play this out.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, yeah, it's an idea.
Yeah, but like I think that's what makes these evenings so valuable is that it's only real because we get to experience it through one another. So it's like this conversation is way less impactful in my own head because I can't experience it through you in a sense.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think that's what makes conversation and discussion so valuable.
Okay, no, I'm getting on board with that. I like that. I like that. Yo, can already feel the animosity in my. And like I'm feeling anxious, bro. You know, like when you know you're about to like fight and you're like, I don't want to fight, but I
Yeah.
gotta do it.
Yeah. You need to be the hero.
Gotta put yourself in harm's way, bro. Think they just give the gold to the guy.
No.
Gotta put yourself in harm's way.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the gold? Behind the dragon.
It's like, can we ask the dragon to
To
move?
just
or like-
gently-
Yeah.
Like, no, the bench. And even like the other day, like when the cat came into my apartment, like it was so weird, bro. Because I
Yeah.
didn't know how to deal with this thing. Like I literally was like trying to like, shoot.
Shoot it out. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey. And then it was like scratching my furniture. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
hey. And like try it, and you just like, that's such a fucking beater. Like, why are you such a pussy, man?
The cat is the cat. And so this
Like,
guy's a
yo, dude,
pussy,
you're
yeah.
a fully grown adult male. You could probably break it, and you're actually like, hey,
Yeah.
get away.
Calling homeowners association.
Yo, dude, calling the fucking governing body. Excuse me. There's a cat in here.
Yeah.
No tag on it.
Yeah, man. Like,
Bullshit.
like imagine now there's like a family that you are sort of have to be the man of the house for. It's like you can't be the guy who's scared of the cat or the
but
spider, and your wife is dealing with.
I won't lie, I do behave differently when I'm observed. Like I remember, so like my ex-girlfriend, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
mention the name, but like whenever she was around, and there were things that scared me, I would actually run towards them.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be like, because in my
It's
brain,
natural,
in my brain, I'm like, oh, I am the protector.
It's my role.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you by yourself, you're like, oh god, you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what the fuck. It's like who's
It's a responsibility thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, but it's also like I do kind of think we behave differently when we're observed.
Like I would definitely say like what I've been doing lately. I would say for actually probably the last year.
Mm.
It's like I act as if I'm being observed. So like, and what like the result that it's had is like there's always a level of like, let's say, respect's not the word, but it's like there's a level of etiquette that you carry regardless of if there's anyone around.
Oh yeah.
So it's like there's things that I won't do even with just myself in the room. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like you've almost like it's almost like you create an environment of being. It's that whole thing of being proud of who you are,
Yeah.
and it's like you're consistent in all environments, no matter where you are.
I asked you that question when Russ was here. I think it was like a year it was like a year ago. And I asked a question. We were high though, but I was like, would you rather be the person in front of the camera or the person behind it?
Yeah,
And you were like, I'd rather be the person behind it. You didn't want to be watched all the time. Because I think we came down to something along the lines of like, if you constantly monitor yourself, so if you put yourself on camera all the time, you'll start behaving.
a certain way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I wouldn't want to be that.
It depends on. See, I guess it's like it depends on the audience. So
No,
it's
but
like
I think the problem about being famous, and actually, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this.
buckle up, baby.
Yo, dude, I realize I don't want to be famous because I'm not the person that decides who I am.
Yes, exactly. And then we've spoken about this before. So that's also the thing. It's like you start acting the way that you think other people want to see you behave.
Yes.
And that's a
That's a
problem.
problem, yeah.
So that's why I didn't like the camera analogy. Because it's for a different audience. But when I am the audience and the character, it's different. Then I hold myself to a standard.
Okay. Yeah, no, being famous.
But okay, that's an interesting rabbit hole we can go down.
Yeah, no, I didn't like. I was like, oh yeah, I don't like this. I'd like. I can realize why I don't like this. Like, let's take the Catherine and Bodine example. Like, if I was famous, I would have been that guy, and it's like I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole point of being famous is not necessarily being that guy. It's about being known.
Yeah. And like your reputation is out of your hands.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's continuously out of your hands. So you
Yeah.
can just be whatever they say you are.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't want that.
I mean, like, look at the Johnny Depp situation.
with Amber Heard.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's like that guy's reputation is fucked.
but that's like that is a genuine, like that
Ish.
was a genuine oversight that I didn't realize for a while as to why I do not want to be famous, because my perception of who I am is out of my control.
Well, it's not the perception of who you are; it's the perception that everyone else has
As
you.
of
Of
yeah.
you. Yeah,
But by definition, it's the perception of who I am.
exactly. Yeah.
So it's like Jesus, and then you think you're like Jesus. I don't want to be. I don't want everyone. I don't want Tom, Dick, and Harry fucking
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, Zamani's a boost."
Talking
Like
shit
you don't
about you,
fucking
yeah.
know me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, in their reality, that is my creation.
Yes.
In their reality, that's me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't want that. I do not want that.
Yeah. It runs away without you.
It runs away without you. And I think like if you're a person that listens to the feedback, you're gonna be so.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt, and you I think it like you morph away from being who you are.
Yes, you morph into a hard ass.
Yeah, not even so hard. You'll just morph into something that you don't know what you are.
Yeah.
And that's like, I can get why celebrities don't look at tabloids and whatnot, and they really try to keep their circle close, because it's like, I need to be genuine. As long as I can be genuine to these people,
Yeah.
whatever else everyone says, I don't care. But the disassociation, I think it's the like when I think about it, that is their cost to make money. And in my mind, I'm like, there's easier ways to
I
make
don't
money.
want to pay that price.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's not a price. Like there's an easier way to make money, and
Yeah.
it's not that. If I can live wealthy without having to pay that price,
Better.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
So that was it was just a weird rabbit hole to go down.
Hmm.
But did you see why I said we should switch the lights on and close curtains?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it was gonna get dark so quickly.
Hey, bro, we're in South Africa, and it's what, autumn now? Yeah, it is autumn. Do you want to go get food?
Yeah, we can take a break.
Take a break. Have a Kit Kat.
Peace.
That was all for today. We're going to take an ad break and get back to you in precisely. It's a word from our sponsors. Do you like women? Well,